Thank you, Troy. 9, but we'll wait 1 minute till 7. Okay. I'd like to call the regular council meeting for the town of Bay-Westfield on Monday, August 9th, 2021 to order at 7:00 p.m. Item 2 is the acknowledgement of treaty land. We respectfully acknowledge that Bay-Westfield exists on the traditional Woolstook-Way land. The lands of Wabanaki people are recognized in a series of peace and friendship treaties to establish an ongoing relationship of peace, friendship, and mutual respect between equal nations. The river that runs by our town is known as Woolstook, along which live Woolstook-Way, the people of the beautiful and bountiful river. We, the staff and elected representatives, pay respect to the elders, past and present, and descendants of this land. Welcome, everyone. I wanted to take a moment and celebrate that we are officially 2 full months into our mandate. It went fast, and we've already accomplished a lot as a team. Last council, we adopted our strategic plan, and I look forward to the work ahead where we design our implementation plan, which will help our vision, a welcoming place to live, grow, and thrive become a reality. Thank you to staff. Thank you to council who have been working hard on moving Bay-Westfield forward. Thank you to both. Last week, we celebrated New Brunswick Day in a way we have been unable to do in quite some time, together. It was a day to remember, and I look forward to more celebrations like that in the future. Thank you to our community who have persevered together and held each other up during what has been a time of hardship for all. I'm very proud to live here. And item 4, record of attendance. Let the record reflect that we have full attendance here this evening. Item 5, agenda approval. The motion that the council of the town of Bay-Westfield approve the agenda of August 9th, 2021 as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Day. I have a second. Thank you, Councillor Bailmans. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item 6, disclosure of conflict of interest. Councillor Bailmans, item 11J, 19 Brandon Point Road. Item 7, public hearings, presentations. Item 7A, we have with us here today David Casey, who's going to present to us our financial report. David, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Mayor, council, councilors, some have met for the first time today. Just a general comment, the financial report at this time of the year, most people, most department heads and their budgets are on target. It's early, and we're looking for disaster situations that we have to make some corrective action. If something happened and a department had a $100,000 major blow up of an engine for the largest truck, we're going to have to deal with that. We have to say, okay, how are we going to deal with that? And we also look to excess revenues and new surpluses. We have about 25 pages of line items. Each department head has a full line item budget, which deals first with personnel, and then administrative issues and other areas, such as street work and paving and that sort of thing. So we check every line item to see if we're on target. Department heads look at budgets and present a summary that Marcia brings to me. And then I look at the summary, I dig into a few details that look a little unusual. Why is that particular budget item reading that? It shouldn't be that. You know, it should be either higher or lower based on what I might know. So we we summarize in Schedule A of the financial report the larger items that we feel should be brought to council's attention. Of course, this is a very good report, and the fact that we're projecting, according to that schedule, $460,000 surplus this year. But the main derivative, of that 460,000 is we received COVID funding for the pandemic of 275,000. But the department heads were able to deal with the pandemic in the town of Bay-Westfield, so that we didn't have a deficit because of COVID. We lost revenue, but we also were able to cut expenses, meaning that the 275 becomes excess funds, which is going to result in a surplus. We also get funding for the LNG in that top section of that schedule, $13,000, and that comes from the province, and it deals with the liquefied natural gas situation where the province is urging and dealing with urban oil. They were in terms of the assessment values, and it results in every municipality getting some additional revenue, and that's what that is. If you move down to the bottom, the other large items are we budgeted in our operating budget. We have $850,000 in our operating budget to do special projects, capital and special projects. That $102,000 was our share of the designated highway. So that project is not going to occur. And therefore, we have $100,000 in our budget that's not going to be spent. And therefore, that's going to result in a further surplus. It's not really 103, that's our total budget. We are doing a small amount of work, of which our share is 3,000, I think it's 3,500. So really that number should be 100,000, not 103, but it's minor in the whole scheme of things. The 72,000, that's a property gap, the assessment gap that perhaps everybody knows about, where the assessment values of residential properties, could be residential, commercials, goes up, but the province several years ago capped it to a certain percentage each year. And there's an assessment gap that between what your value is and what you're charged as a landowner or property owner. So that 72,000, they've said we're going to get rid of that gap. We're going to bring it and start bringing it back to the assessed values. And that 72,000 is our share that occurred and was approved by the province last year, but didn't reach our property tax assessment base. So they're just saying, you're going to get a check. No, I think we already got it. Yeah, that's why I want 72,444, I think. Yeah. So those are some of the major items. So some of the cost items were that John has been successful in getting a new full-time chief financial officer, which we really didn't have budgeted for this year. So Marcia has put in a number under general government for what it might cost us for the 3 months or whatever for his time with us. And a few other smaller things in there. I see one other small error that looks like it's about $10,000 error, but there's many, many other variances from budget. These are the larger ones. Bottom line is we're going to have a surplus of at least $460,000. And it's going to be, I think, more because department heads tend to be conservative. Think, well, we might spend that. We budget it. Let's not say we're going to have a favorable variance, perhaps in a repair to a 3-ton truck. We budgeted for $3,000 or $4,000. Hasn't happened yet. If it doesn't happen, we're going to have a $3,000 or $4,000 favorable variance. And the tendency seems to be we pick up a few more thousand as the year goes on. So your final report that comes in November, which is a little more accurate, it starts really getting serious about picking up all those items because you're going to have to transfer an amount to the reserve fund. We don't want to have a $460,000 surplus. So what you're going to do, which is historically what we do, one of your options one that I would recommend, and for Steve, the new CFO, he I'm sure is going to recommend that we're going to put that into the reserve fund. The reserve funds right now, on December 31st, for 1.4 million, and we're probably going to put 500,000 more. So you're going to have a reserve fund, which is like a savings account. There's 4 or 5 different ones, but about 1.9 million would be my guess at the end of this year. We have budgeted to put 90,000 into the reserve fund in our operating budget. So even if we put that into the reserve fund and didn't put the 90, we would have a $90,000 surplus. Or if we put that 90, then we would only put 360 of this and leave 100 for cushions and things to make sure we're not going to run into a deficit. Luckily, we haven't had a deficit since I've been around for about 40 years, ever in the general operating fund. I think we might have $400 or $500 deficit 10 years ago in the sewage fund. But we've been pretty accurate in terms of our projections and with department heads. And it's mainly them. I'm just reviewing their work and trying to pull it together for council. I can go on for another hour, but I think that's a good summation. I'm probably not going to go into any more detail, but I'm willing to answer any questions that other people may have, council may have.
Thank you, David. What I'll do is I'll put the motion on the table, and once it's motioned and seconded, then I'll open the floor to questions.
Sure.
Okay. So the motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the second quarter financial report as presented. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Second. Thank you, Councillor Day. Do you have any questions?
I have one, Your Worship. Don't mean to micromanage or get down into the drill down too far, but just have a question about how the general government services portion. There are 2 line items that I'd just like some clarification on. Mayor travel mileage and council travel mileage. It's projecting a surplus at this point in time. Is this just strictly due to timing? Some of it's COVID. We may have anticipated certain travel we allow per diem. That includes per diems. It includes different the different meetings that occur in Fredericton and is in St. John and around. Usually, we budget for. I think it's the town. The group of towns in New Brunswick.
UMNB.
Sorry?
UMNB.
UMNB. Municipalities of New Brunswick. And it's budgeted in there. There's a detail. I don't have it here, but there's a detailed budget of what we thought was going to occur last November and October when we did the budget. Some of it did not occur because COVID is still around. Some of it, Marcia is the one who projected, said, based on my gut feel where I think things are going, I believe, and that has 2 components. One was for the mayor. I think I'd have to look. I can tell you what your budget was and what we think you're going to spend. The same thing with council. They have a separate budget, but what's projected and budgeted for that you're going to spend. And those 2 items came up to 6,500. I guess I have to look. The budget for the mayor for travel is $5,000, and Marcia is projecting 3,000. Maybe you and I talked about that, John. We said that doesn't look right.
Yeah, so
and it's supposed to be corrected.
Yeah, so what had happened, there's an error in the input.
There's a miscoding for the mayor.
And
travel.
It was corrected, but we had already submitted this sheet for council.
Okay.
And when we found the error, it was too late to have the proper sheet.
What happened is one of your checks was coded to travel. And the travel showed that we spent $5,000, And how are we ending up with a $3,000 surplus when you only have a $5,000 budget? So it's corrected and the three could stand. But again, this budget is to give us an idea, or sorry, this report, give us an idea of how the town is doing. And more or less, the line items, association fees are going to be over $543. And there's 25 pages of those line items. And we just selected some that we thought should be noted to council. Now, I'm not sure what your second one is, Jim, but
It was the council travel. You answered that.
and both of those are together. And the council travel had a council. Yes, here it is. A $6,500 budget, and Marcia is suggesting 3,000. Looks like it's going to be enough. I don't know if we spent any council travel in the first 5 months, so we're going to be on budget.
And Your Worship, just a follow-up question on another item. Center building allocation and Nericus Road building allocations of 35,000 and 21,000, and it shows zero. So is that just a timing issue when money is spent and not spent?
Is this not that summary report?
Just
Schedule A?
yes, the page number 2.
Okay, page number 2.
At the bottom of the page,
That 46,000?
there's a. I'm looking at central building allocation, zero spent and $35,000 budget, and zero spent a $21,000 budget. I'm just wondering.
I can answer that question, but I don't know what schedule you're looking at. It's not part of the report, Schedule B, is it, Jim?
It's under actual budget.
Yes.
Actual budget variance.
Oh, okay, no.
On the second page.
What happens is that we have a formula where all building costs are allocated to department heads. This building, the fire department gets some certain amount of the costs. It uses propane. Nobody else uses propane. It gets 100% of the propane costs. Everything is done by percentage, square footage, and the best allocation that we feel we come up with. We do not allocate every cost as the invoice comes in. I mean, there's no need. What we do is over here on a separate building cost, we have a budget for each building, and we keep track of the costs in that for the buildings, the repairs, the propane, the electricity, insurance, property taxes, sewage costs, everything for that building. By formula, it's allocated to the department heads, but we don't do that until the end of the year. Okay, we just make one entry at the end of the year saying total budget. Say we have a favorable variance of 3,000. We don't have to allocate that tree as to who's going to get that favorable variance. Our formula looks after it. 2,100 to fire, 900 maybe to the general government. If it's not significant, it didn't make the report. In other words, we're on budget for all of our buildings. But it's just an accounting method that we use. Yeah.
So it is a timing issue. That particular thing would be at the very end of November.
It will. It's on target. Yeah, all of the building costs are on target.
Thank you. Through the mayor.
We have any additional questions for?
Anticipated.
Oh, you
No explanation, so thank you.
No.
You anticipated.
I don't know, it's probably not for Dave, maybe John, and it's just minor, just with the photocopier expense. I'm just wondering if the town has ever thought of going paperless.
Well, talked to a couple people today about our progress with paperless. We've made great strides. Just as an example, time off sheets now, they don't get printed at all. The Word document gets sent to me, but the signature on it is sent to who's ever working. We've also made in some other areas. We also want to reduce. We have reduced since this council has been in place the number of mail-outs. It's going to be an ongoing process.
It's a work in process.
It's a work in progress. We have to cut down. I think we've saved a few points.
I think I see the report that you're looking at, and council never used to get that report. So it's now I think I see it here. Because I see the photocopier expense, having a 3,000 favorable variance. That is usually what we use. And so apologize for that, Jeff.
No problem. Thank you.
So the reason I included that, this is council's first kick at the can. This is a little bit of the weeds, you won't be getting that in the future, but just as, again, curious, there's a kick at the can.
And behind that, there's a lot more detail.
Yeah.
That's a summary report.
Yes, I saw the pile of papers that you were the other day, David. So for each one of those lines, there's
There's an entire worksheet.
of detail behind it.
The one thing that still throws me is the red. Every time I see the red, I think of deficits. And I always have to read and go through everything again to make sure I've got it.
We just want to make sure you can figure it out easier than the black.
Yeah.
Anybody have any additional questions for Mr. Casey while he's here with us? John, do you have anything to add?
David, I kind of wish that you were here when I started, that you were starting here when I was starting.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed working with you. This last year, you're talking a lot about the town, and of course, the department heads. I can't fathom that you've been with us for 38 years.
About that.
That's a lifetime. That's 2 generations worth. And I know you're going to be helping us out as we transition to a CFO, but I just want to express my gratitude for what you taught me the last year. Be gracious and kind, and I think you've indulged me more than once, and it's extremely helpful to our CS. I just want to say thank you very much. And even though your term with us isn't ending just yet, I think it's important that everybody realizes what an important role you played with the town for the last almost 40 years.
Well, thank you for that, John. It's been a pleasure. It's been my pleasure. It's started out just trying to help. Didn't have any computers back then. Everything was manual, and it was pretty much a disaster. But anyway, we worked through all that. And department heads were not quite as organized because they really didn't have a detailed budget, the head budgets. And so anyway, we made a lot of progress. There's probably a lot more that could be done with somebody, the CFO, who spent 27 years with the City of St. John. It's going to be, I think the town should be enthusiastic about the things that he will bring with his experience. And as I told John, I certainly, if he needs some help just understanding how we do it in Grand Bay, so he's not tripping trying to figure it out, then I'll be around, happy to help him. And then I'm sure it'll be very soon and he'll have full control of the brains of the finances of Grand Bay, and I'll enjoy my retirement.
Well, David, I just wanted to thank you as well. You took a lot of time with me earlier at the end of last week going through all of this. I had a lot of questions, and you were very patient at explaining them to me. And I know that many of us here are new around this table, but you've left quite a footprint here at the town, and we appreciate everything that you've done for us over the last, like John said, almost 40 years. And we have a small token of our appreciation. So it's just, it's a gift card and a card and a plaque. So thank you very, very much. We really appreciate your dedication to our town.
Find a place at my office.
I'll look for it next time.
Yeah, she'll find it there. Well, thank you, Councilor.
David.
Mayor.
So on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Thank you, David, and thank you, Council.
Okay, I'm just going to leave everything here except my wallet. That's for Garcia.
Thank
Okay.
you very
All
much.
right.
Bye-bye.
We're on to item A4, anticipated unbudgeted expenses. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive this information. Thank you, Councillor Day. Second. Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. John, can you speak to this item for us, please?
I just wanted to make council aware that, with the new CFO, there's some expenses beyond just the salary and benefits and stuff. And then also, we mentioned, we have a new strategic plan. We have a Parks and Rec master plan that we're implementing, and a new budget. All that needs to be put into cascade. Yeah, our skill level isn't there, and the amount of work that's required for that exceeds both our skill and our time capacity. So even though we have a new purchasing policy, I still think council needs to be informed sometimes on things. Haven't been budgeted for, and that they're going to be coming down the chute. So again, just trying to be transparent.
Thank you, John. Does anybody have any questions? On the motion, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 7D, our CMP monthly report.
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
Can we introduce you to the new sergeant first?
Yes, please.
So Sergeant Luke Sampson, he started 2 weeks ago, week 3.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you here.
Thank you so much.
So I'm Mayor Brittany Merrifield. We have Councillor McIntosh Lawrence, Councillor Beverly Day, Deputy Mayor Toole, Councillor Balcom, and Councillor Bale down there. And we have our leadership team around the table as well. We have John and Swind, he's our CAO. We have Nicole, our confidential secretary. We have Bruce Gulp, who's our works commissioner. And we have Troy Butcher, who's our fire chief and our deputy CAO. And we have David Taylor, who is our development officer. And then we have Gary Clark, our recreation director.
Perfect. I memorized all the names.
I'm like, there's a test at the end. So unfortunately, we weren't able to get you guys the stats early enough. I don't know if Nicole was able to share them with you guys.
We have them here now.
Okay, so any questions? Stats, nothing really that stands out to me.
So the sergeant's last name is
Sampson.
Sampson.
Okay.
That didn't get updated. That'll be updated on the next one. So,
No, it's just on you.
So there's nothing significant on the report. Okay, well, maybe we'll do a motion to receive and file, then I'll open the floor to questions from council.
Sure.
So the motion is that the council of the town of Bay-Westfield receive and file the RCMP report for July 2021. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. I have a second. Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Do we have any questions from council on the report?
Summertime and the kids are out.
yes.
Are we seeing anything different from previous years?
Not at this point, no.
What's
As far as you mean, like calls for.
well, calls for vandalism or foolishness, or they're skating, boarding down Main Street.
No, not really. Nothing that would be over and above our normal calls for service for that.
Mm-hmm.
I know the last meeting we talked about the bike rodeo,
Mm-hmm.
and Constable Galloway is going to be in charge of that, to get that sort of going.
Oh, good.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
He has reached out to me.
Oh,
so
good.
I know he's on vacation right now.
Yeah.
So we're gonna connect with him.
And we'll make some plans moving forward with that. So maybe for the second weekend in September, when school starts, we can get some, maybe some volunteers, and if people want to donate, the big thing is donate some helmets and maybe a bike if we can. That's sort of what we'd be looking for from the community as far as help for that.
That's great. So what age groups are you targeting with the bike rodeo?
I'd like to target kind of the mid one, because I think that's kind of what we had talked about at the last council meeting, was sort of that middle kind of age group. So, but we could even split it and do, if we wanted to get the younger ones in as well, we could do one kind of mini one and then do one for some of the middle to older kids.
Yeah, I think the young kids they'll just be there, but it's the middle kids that we're gonna have trouble.
Convincing to wear their helmets.
I was gonna ask about that. I don't really have any questions about the report, but since our last meeting, have you noticed any greater compliance with helmet? So
Personally, no. I haven't had any real complaints, and nothing from the other members as far as them noticing anything different. I think we're all on the same page as far as education right now. So
I went, if you pull up to a group of kids, do they, are you comfortable and for, like, not fining, but just saying, hey guys, that, like, it doesn't work unbuckled, or where's your helmet?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Because I do that with my son and his friends. It's not gonna do me any good, it's not buckled.
It's not possible. If you're not wearing one.
We'll end up having to do more burden. He's my burden.
Do we have any more questions? No. Thank you very much. It was, I'm thrilled to hear that the bike rodeo is on its way, and that you're targeting that 11 to 16 group that tend to be non-compliant. So because when they're wearing helmets, the little kids see the cool kids wearing helmets, and it helps with that compliance with the future generation. So thank you for that. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Oh,
Yes.
is it
J Division.
the J Division, okay.
I didn't get a copy. Did you guys get one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll make the motion, I'll state the motion. That the council of the town of Bay-Westfield receive and file the RCMP J Division quarterly report. I have a motion. Thank you, Stephanie, second. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Okay, so do we have any questions on the J Division report? But
Please don't, because I haven't seen it.
yes, John.
This is a different question.
Yes.
The priorities are, as listed here in the report, are enhanced road safety by targeting high-risk areas, reduce substance abuse through increased presence and intelligence, enhance mental health awareness by developing high-risk profiles, increasing collaboration with our partners. I just wonder if you would share with council how you prioritize which antisocial behavior you think is worth more in enforcing compliance instead of some other issues.
You mean for all of those priorities?
Yeah, like in Saskatchewan, we used to have a meeting with the RCMP for about 4 or 5 hours. It'd be all the municipalities that the contraction serves, and then we go through what the issues are, and then it'd come back with the plan for the year, indicating this is what we heard from the community, this is what our commanders told us, and then here's what the commanders told us, and we'll do some of this other stuff too. So just wondering here, what's the process? I've been here a year. I don't recall being invited to, or even filling out a survey. I think there was a small survey. But if you just outline, this is a new council, what's the process to determine what the priorities are? And then within those priorities, what are you going to enforce and not enforce?
So our annual policing priorities, that's something that we do every year in consultation. So that's probably what you saw prior
Just a different
to.
name, like, for that song.
It's just a different name, right? So then the quarterly report is in line with what our priorities are for the year. So those priorities haven't changed over the last, I'm going to say, few years with traffic enforcement and drug enforcement. And property crime. Those are kind of those 3 big ones that throughout the year we sort of plan according to that. It's also would be based on calls for service related to those priorities, and also any like intelligence that we get or any information that we get throughout the year. We obviously would prioritize those as being some of the main issues that we need to focus on, but those priorities are a division priority as well. So some communities have different priorities that they kind of put in there as well. So if there were things that you felt needed to be a part of that, then we would need to have those discussions. But they try to align them in with our annual policing priorities as well. But they seem to be the same. They haven't changed over the last couple of years. And then we would do obviously initiatives throughout the year if we need to target, everybody has a responsibility to enforce traffic. Everybody has a responsibility to, if they get information that we discuss it and come up with a plan to deal with that information if it's related to drug trafficking and things like that. So
Julie, just as a follow-up question, with respect to the consultation part for the year's policing priorities, when does that typically take place?
new fiscal. So it already would have happened, I think in March. And that would have been part of
Previous ones.
previous council would have signed off on that.
And with respect to community policing, where does that fall in the priorities?
It's there. I mean, it's always there. Community policing is sort of what we do, right? That hasn't changed. And it would be, us attending the meetings, or if there's things that you guys feel are a priority or that are important, you would bring that forward, and that's all part of the community policing. It's all community-based policing now. So.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments or questions? Good.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
I'm good.
Sorry for the false start.
I better sit down. This may take a few minutes now. Thank you. Anytime if you guys have questions or if there's any follow-up needed, you know how to get hold of me.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you.
We're going to see you again. Thank you.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Reminded? The motion is carried.
Worship and second and for a second.
Item 8, minutes of previous meeting. That the council of the town of Bay-Westfield adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of July 26, 2021 as presented. Thank you. Councillor Balcom, second. Councillor Bellman, thank you. Do we have any questions on the minutes? Any comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Scoot down here. A minute to get down to where I need to go. Missed it. Okay, so item 9, unfinished business, there being none. 10, bylaws, there being none. Item 11, new business recommendations. Item 11A, UMNB resolution, provincial policing. The motion is that the council of the town of Bay-Westfield submit the following resolution to the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick. Whereas there are increased calls to have a review of the RCMP, and whereas many provinces and municipalities are studying the feasibility of establishing their own police force or have established their own police force, and whereas the cost of police services are increasing and the establishment of local police forces is costly, therefore be it resolved that a UMNB partner with the government of New Brunswick and other municipal associations within New Brunswick to determine the best way to provide policing in the province and its municipalities. They have a motion. Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Second, Councillor Balcom. Okay. John, can you speak to the resolution for me, please?
Yeah, there's been calls recently that internal levels as well from the RCMP that they should get a community policing or even provincial police force. There's been an ongoing discussion. Surrey, British Columbia, their last municipal election was built on Surrey having its own police force contracted services with the RCMP. And other jurisdictions are doing the same. The internal memo that I'm referencing from the RCMP suggests that they should get out of the community police. And the timeline, roughly speaking, is about 7 years. If that's the case, now's the time to start determining the feasibility of it. It's not only determine what's the best model, but then how do we transition from the contracting model for RCMP to something else? And then further to that, it's not just about cost and having the depth and breadth of services, which is the expensive part of it. It's a philosophical question. There's really two different models of policing that you can follow. The RCMP represent more paramilitary type of policing. You see that the way they're dressed, which is becoming more common just because of risk, but also how they're transitioned to other municipalities every 3 years. For the longest time, the RCMP had policy whereby they couldn't stay too long in the community, and that's changing. And I've noticed it here in the Maritimes. The other model, and you can kind of see this because where the courthouse is in St. John and the headquarters for the police force is on Peel Plaza. It's the Peel model. He established the London Ensemble, the London Police in London, UK, and that's where it's more of a community model, where the officers live in the community, they live their whole lives there, they come from the community, they know what's going on. And there's pros and cons to both models. But that's a philosophical discussion that, we are transitioning out of the contracted service with the RCMP. That's one of the fundamental discussions that has to be happening. And at the municipal level, particularly if we're going to have local police, what type of model are we going to follow? And I would suggest, though I'm no expert, that when some people call for defunding the police, they're actually asking for a more community-oriented police force that partners actively with psychologists, sociologists, recreation coordinators, and whatnot, to ensure that there's opportunities for everybody to have an active, engaged, fulfilling lifestyle rather than one that's on the fringes or on the extremes. That's it in a nutshell, Your Worship. Not all of it is, I'm not an expert in this area. So.
Thank you, John. Do we have any questions on the resolution?
So, a question on just the logistics of it. Is this something you would bring to UMNB and ask them to?
So the way it happens is provincial associations, their job is to advocate on behalf of their members. And so what needs to happen is council, they only will act on something that a council brings to the UMB. So what's going to happen, I'm going to assume council's going to pass this. So what will happen is Nicole or I will email it to UMNB, and then their committee, the resolution committee, will determine which resolutions, will we bring to the floor. And then it'll be brought to the floor, it'll be read out. And then I don't know the exact bylaws for the UMNB, but the mover, if say ours is accepted, the mayor, or maybe it could be someone else designated by council, will speak to it for 2 minutes. And then there'll be people allowed to speak for a minute for or against it. And then when enough time has elapsed and there's no more speakers, then it'll be put to a vote, yeas or nays. There'll be, if it's overwhelmingly so, they may not count, but if it's close, they will typically count your paddle if you're there in person. This one will be on Zoom, and so you'll raise your digital hand and they'll count those. So that's it in a nutshell. Then what will happen is they'll take that and they'll meet with the minister of, probably the attorney general in this case, to discuss it and see where it goes from there. But also you would be required with this resolution to contact the French Association and the City Association as well. And in my original draft, I suggested that, suggest that we work with all the other maritime provinces, but that may be too ambitious.
Is this basically a conversation starter?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for, for us to put a resolution forward that the provincial association then advocates for.
And that can also go on through your Zone 3 meetings. Beth, who's on the council of Chris Van Sis, is our Zone 3, one of our 3 reps.
Yeah,
So
Beth Thompson and Ken Short.
thank you.
Do you have any other questions on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item 11B, UMNB resolution, municipal risk management, that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield submit the following resolution to the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick. Whereas municipal insurance costs have been significantly increasing, and whereas there are alternative means of managing risk, therefore be it resolved that UMNB mandate the feasibility of establishing a municipal group liability insurance and property insurance program. And be it resolved that UMNB consult with the other maritime provincial municipal associations to determine if they are interested in establishing a working group to study the feasibility of establishing a municipal group liability insurance and property insurance program. Thank you, Councillor Day. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Falcon. So this is, I'm going to let John talk about the different types of insurance programs that are out there, so that we can all have a better idea of really what municipal risk management programs are all about.
I don't know if I should thank you, Your Worship. Let me just say, when I went to my first symposium on risk management, I thought I was not thinking, it's entirely different language. So right now we're in a hard market due to a number of reasons, which I explained in the report, mainly due to catastrophic events like wildfires, flooding, things like that. The unfortunate part is in Century National, it's historically risk management companies, another way of referring to insurance companies, like to spread the risk. And right now, you think back to last year, what was happening in Australia, actually the last 2 years in Australia, Fort McMurray isn't that long ago. Calgary flooding is still in the system to a certain extent. There's been some huge payouts. We pay for that, and we benefit, but we also pay for it. And so right now it's a hard market because who wants to invest in it? It's hard to make money. Insurance companies, they want to have a certain return on their investment. They have not been making. Even when Bay-Westfield, when I looked into it last year during the budget season, we were a money loser for us. They made money, but not as much money as they wanted to make. So having said that, the first model, which is the model that we participate in, is guaranteed cost. We're going to pay for this amount of coverage, and this is what our premium is going to be. We have no control over the price, and we have no control over what type of risk management we're going to get. At the other end is a self-insured fund. Municipalities are usually larger. I think 125 is the minimum, and that's still pretty skinny. You want something larger where they can set aside a reserve so that there is a catastrophic event. They have the funds available to pay for it. And then, of course, when you get into the Calgary events, Fort Mac events, province, there's the PDAP, Provincial Disaster Assistance Program, and then also federal monies available as well. And then there's everything in between. So just going through, the next step up is what's called a retro policy. Just think of a graph. You have your vertical axis, your horizontal axis. We are in the bottom here in the corner. No control over everything. Self-insured, control over how you're going to manage risk, control over how much you're going to pay, and then it's a continuum. Really what we want to be is partway in the middle, and that's where reciprocal is, which I was a part of. And so what happens in that model in the middle is you have communities together. The more communities, the better. That's why I suggested the Maritimes. And that everybody shares the same amount of risk, the same amount of liability. Everything's common. You want common denominators here. And then you have the ability to go into the market, and again, the bigger you are, the better the rates. And then you can negotiate. Right now, we have no capability to negotiate. But the other thing that gives us, because of the size that we're able to partner with other municipalities, is we can start telling communities that, we're going to provide training because we noticed a lot of your backbone or a lot of your graders have been having accidents. We have to do a tune-up on professional development here. Or, this happened too, CAOs. Why are you firing so many people? We've got all these liability issues that we're being sued for. So all of a sudden we provided free legal coverage. We provided some HR training, what we can do and not do if you want to terminate somebody. So it just provides cost certainty in a hard market that's harder to attain, but it gives you more control over not only what you're going to pay, but how you're going to manage the risk. And then the other ones just follow in there. And I don't want to bore everybody talking about this. Sorry. Unless you really want me to, but I'm not an expert. Does that answer your question, Your Worship?
Yes, thank you. Did I get a motion on this report?
Yes, you
Okay,
did.
I just didn't check it out, so I wanted to make sure. Yeah, it does, thank you. And do we have any questions for John on this motion?
The conversation started.
Yeah, because right now we have, our insurance costs of the town have gone up 30% since 2016, and we have no control over that.
No, and they're gonna go up even more.
So this is an opportunity to start a discussion where, we might end up with a model provincially or even through the Maritimes where we do have more control over costs and outlay, so.
Hopefully I'm not talking to the top. I've introduced this concept to my uncle in a couple weeks. And, the whole thing was typically received. I'll bring this to the group that somebody, if council supports it. I think there will be some support. Risk management is not something easily recommended.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty complicated and, thank you for explaining all those different models because I wasn't aware of several of them. So I'm still not sure I can have my mind wrapped around them all, but I'm sure we'll get there.
Sometimes it's to this.
Do we have any more questions on the motion? All in favor?
I,
Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 11C, appointment treasurer. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield appoint Greg Yeomans as treasurer of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield for sections 71, bracket 4, and 76, bracket 1 of the Local Governance Act, effective September 20th, 2021. Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Day. Do we have any questions on the motion? Would like to point out that John is giving up his title as treasurer in order to to sort of make a better offer for our new CFO. So thank you, John, for doing that. I appreciate that. Do we have any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Item 11D, appointment deputy CAO. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield appoint Fire Chief Troy Gautreau as deputy CAO with a salary review to be completed to ensure fair compensation as deputy CAO no later than October 2022. Thank you, Councillor Day. Thank you, Councillor Balco. John, do you have anything to say on the motion before I open it to questions?
No, I think Troy's did a good job. I wouldn't ask council to drop the acting part. I think he did. He's really demonstrated initiative in taking courses regarding municipal issues and leadership. He's always willing to pitch in, even on his days off. He's a bad model of how to have work-life balance, but we can overlook some things. But no, he's been a real, if I may say personally, I really appreciated him being a new guy here and what he brings to the table. Impressed with his political acuity, and looking forward to Troy's been a real bonus.
Thank you, John. Do we have any questions or comments on the motion? You're pleased to see that. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Yes, congratulations, Troy. And I just want to say that when John was away, Troy, you were really great support, and you didn't complain about all the emails I sent him, not even once. Maybe he did to you afterwards.
I don't remember.
But thank you, Troy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So well deserved. Yes.
I'm gonna say, the whole leadership team has been, I didn't know what to expect when I arrived. And they've been fantastic. And I just want to, I know we singled out Troy tonight, this change of the title, but the rest of them have been amazing. I think we're very fortunate to have the team.
So too, I think you deserve a round of applause.
I'd like to thank you for showing up to our meetings, because it's really nice, because if there is a question, the right person can provide the information. So thank you very much.
Okay, item 11E, Brandon Point Road speed. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield maintain the speed limit on Brandon Point Road at 40 kilometers per hour. I guess, John, would Bruce be the best person to speak to on this?
Yeah, I would ask Bruce to speak to it more. This was completed just over a year ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, actually, I forgot to get the motion. Sorry, everybody. I have a motion. Thank you, Councilor McIntosh Lawrence. Take a second. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Sorry for the breach of protocol. You're on, Bruce.
Okay, yes, last year, I came before council, just speaking on that Brady Park Road. But for every time and did the information out for traffic consultant. And that was last year, and he came back with the report. And the report was presented to council. The report that you have now includes the motion, which the council made at that time, and the highlight of the finding of the action study that the read report as that 85th percentile speed was found to be 38 kilometers per hour, and 10% of vehicles sampled exceeded 40 kilometers per hour. These results show more than 85% of vehicles comply with the 40% posted speed. And with that, at that time, this council moved to keep the 40 kilometer posted signs. And that's sort of the current recommendation is to go back for that. Not very changes on there, no move the development still. It's just a single residential street. Make a change on where that would impact the findings of last year.
Thank you, Bruce. Do we have any questions or comments? Councilor Billings?
I still recommend that the road still be lowered to 30 because of the single lane into dead end, and we have business on the end of the road that goes back and forth a lot. And I still agree. It's also our next year, 10 years now, the road's still too fast. And so we turn, we'll revisit it again. It's too late. So, thanks.
Thanks, Councilor Billman. Yes, Councilor McIntosh Lawrence?
Sort of two questions. What are the disadvantages of reducing it to 30? And if it was reduced to 30, is that enforceable?
So basically, it's compliance. You just saw the RCMP's priorities. It's the high risk areas. So how will it be enforced? We don't know. And second, correct me if I'm wrong. If council changes our bylaws to 30 for that, we can't do that, and that's enforceable. But again, will the RCMP enforce it because they look at strategic areas? The other thing becomes, are we prepared to do that for all the streets within the town? Should they all be reduced down to 30? We go on an ad hoc basis. I don't know. So those are some things. Bruce, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you hit it on right there. Right now, people are going to be for their act line move it with 40 kilometers to go down further. If they still continue to do the 40, they're violation. And also with that is if we do that for 30, I guess as John mentioned is, I guess are we doing that on every street? And that's what they said we can. But again, I guess we wish to go there because the active traffic study and the findings from I guess the traffic engineer is not recommending that. So we go against.
we have any other questions or comments on the motion?
I have a question, but it might not be able to be answered because it's might require time. Just, are there streets that are less than 40 in town? Is there no streets that are less than 40?
No, we have areas where it's cautionary to slow down and sharp corner, but not a street.
But there's no speed limits.
There is one that is 30, but it's from the playground. So in front of the playground, it's 30, after the playground back. Only in that area, and I think that's all. So that there's that, we had that before, which were playing signs, we go along. But in front of the playground, that's something unusual, they get signs. But only in front of the actual playground, because it's unusual circumstances, which speaks all come together to the playground, not just because they're.
And one more quick one, is the problem people, if people comply with 40 km/h speed sign, would that solve the problem? The problem is the speed people going up to 40, or is the speed people exceeding the 40? It's like, which is the?
I understand from Councilor Bell, it's speed shouldn't be 40, but that's too fast.
So 40 is too fast, not that they're over 40.
Yeah, so I mean, being 40 on a single lane road, if there's other street like there's Central Avenue, because all small streets are around the road. So everybody started doing 40 on not breaking the law. So somebody has to get hurt first, or somebody said, well, maybe that changed the law, but we feel like some will get killed or some will get hurt. And then revisit then, too late.
So the problem is maybe for all roads.
Yes, it should be for all roads in the town.
That's a different question.
So in the introduction, it says Brandon Road is a two-lane local street. So you're saying it's one.
Well, I recommend last time you all drove down the road, within 40 kilometers, how fast you're going, and keep to your own personal self. 40 is too fast on the road. And people on the street don't want to complain because they don't be shot by other people on the road. So once we come back, all the people on the paved part of the road. So maybe we did 40 fast on the gravel portion, out to the field. It's just not a good thing, right? I mean, works all for you have kids and children, dogs, and you can't tell them to do right to be run. And you should know the way you're a safety road. So you don't didn't run on the road, you won't know. So I asked them to force around this road. And see if they bring up road.
Thank you, Councillor Bellman. Councillor Balcom, do you have anything?
I haven't been on the road, especially when there are children playing, and I'd like to see it myself. I don't know what the proper motion or counter motion would be, but before I would make a decision on this, I would like to go down and physically see the road myself with people playing.
I'm just wondering, is it something, are we dealing with just this one road, or are we dealing with all of them? That's kind of my, this is the only road in town that is under 40, or are we deciding to look at all of these roads? And it's not, you said we're saying single lane roads, it's not a single lane road, it's a double lane road, so it would be all roads.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to be where our parameters are and what we should be doing as council, because I don't want to give one road change and not address others, or I don't know how, I'm trying to think what the best way to approach it is, I guess, is to make sure that safety work for everyone.
John?
I think, big deputy makes a good point. The other thing I'd like to add is neighbors need to take responsibility. There's neighborhood minister, Councillor Days, Councillor Belcom lives right on River Valley, so it's where we count. You think about the June neighborhood, Beverly Hills and whatnot, neighborhoods there. The speed there is all 40, and often people drive to what the traffic also. So we can, if council wants, we can certainly review the bylaw and change things. However, again, people usually drive according to the street too. So even if we do reduce it, will they do it or not? I don't know, because it seems the natural pattern there is to drive below 40, though it's not 30. The natural one seems to be 30.
Yes, Councillor.
So when people drive on single lane road and they do 40 on a normal road, and it's too fast for a road, and they do get hurt some ways, and I'm doing the speed at 40, so I really don't have consequences. They come in front of me. So you're going too fast on a road that really can't see it's on the road, and of course there's a whiny, get jumped out, or they walk. So some roads there, it's not being a road, it's a single lane path. People there, they have turnoffs to get off the road path. So it's not a single lane, double lane path, as you mentioned. single lane. So people have to pull off on the gravel or on the lawn to get by. And my concern was if somebody broke down or a fire truck had to get down or somebody broke down the middle of the road, how would a fire truck get by the road too? I mean, it's a dead end street. It's not like some streets have, you get out one way or around, but there's a lot of our streets in Grand West that has to be revisited because drive 40 on a gravel road is not good either. Right?
So are we talking about speed on the road or risk management on the roads?
Yeah, those are two separate.
Yeah, I'm starting to
According
get
to the report,
confused.
though, people aren't driving 40.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
under 40.
and that's my question, John. Based on this report, what percentage of the drivers clocked are driving 30 or 30, 35?
Most people, if you give me one here, but the traveling here, is page 2.
It's 29.
Yeah, speeds between 29 and 31 at both speeds. And then 85th is 38. So the natural, that's what I talked about earlier, the natural speed is definitely below 40. So,
5%.
sorry?
Only 5% of them.
Yeah, but 85% go up to 38. That's the natural speed is up to 38.
Okay. And do we have an idea of what percentage of that 85 are 30 or below?
It says the average speed is 29, 31, so I wonder if that's,
So that would be
that gives you,
50%.
not a lot of stuff. But I'm thinking I'm just looking at the averages, but
So if you go to, sorry.
Did they have some speed going up 80 on that road? So how does that figure out for the people like 10% over the 40 up to 80 on that road? Right? That doesn't make sense. But doing 80 on the road, that's a major lane, something to that.
Yeah, those people wouldn't pay attention to a change in the speed sign anyway. I don't think. That's a whole different compliance issue.
there's something we can do, so it's kind of the same as we talked about, it's not more but the helmet thing, if it's an education, you have a requirement to do it, you put a 30 sign, you're still gonna get the guy driving 80 down the road, so if there's some point we can, whether it's what we can do as a town, like review the bylaw, let people know, we can speak to the RCMP and see if they can target some of these smaller neighborhoods where there are, because I know they did put that speed sign, that radar sign that's around town, that was on Franklin 20 for a while, there's ways to let people know, so I'm afraid we put time and energy into this and it wouldn't make any difference. If there's a way that we can do something that will make a difference. And some of these people that go 80, I no qualms about taking the license plate and calling the RCMP on them. I've done that before when I see them going to my neighborhood. And sometimes it's only one or two individuals who are the problem. So again, I think John was mentioning neighbors taking some sort of initiative. If you see this, if it's one or two people the problem, we can't do a systemic kind of change for an individual problem. I think this is what we're want to make sure we're doing the right thing that's actually going to help.
My question is, 40 is too fast on the road, and people are doing 40, they're not breaking the law. So when you're down to 30 or 20 or 25, you do 30 or 40, you're breaking the law. And then you pick it up. But now you can't take it until you do 40 on a 40 road. That's on the single path. That's one thing you can't take it on. You're doing 40 on a single road.
Thank you, Councilor Bailey. John?
The council goes to page 3 of the speed report, figure number 2, speed increments recorded on Brandon Park Road. You'll notice that the average falls at about, the 85th percentile, which is between 35 and 39. But if you look, the bulk of the traffic travels below 35 and 39. 30 to 34, call it just over 600, both stealth mode and active mode, travel at the suggested rate that Councilor Bailey is talking. So even though we have 40 there, the natural rate is slower than the speed limit. If we start putting that 30, I think it becomes a compliance issue. And I think I shared with council before, I'd rather not pass bylaws that can enforce.
Exactly.
And that's, I agree with Councilor Bailey that and the data shows that the natural speed is lower than 40, but then to start catching up, all these people who travel at 35 or 40, how do we enforce that? I've driven down the road and I monitored my speed one time as I was going to visit somebody. I don't think I hit 40. the road, and we talked about road safety design 2 or 3, I don't remember when right now, but we talked about it, remember? The same things at play here, you have steep bank on one side, you have the yards on the other, it's narrow road, people automatically slow down. It's already working here, the data shows people are automatically traveling slower, reducing the speed time from 40 to 30. I'm concerned about enforcement. We can do it, we'll do it, council wants us to. I don't know that it's necessary.
Great question. We're talking about people walking too, people walking, you don't have a shoulder or lane.
I'm not arguing with that. I'm actually trying to demonstrate part council surveillance that when you look at this, most of your neighbors are already traveling around 30 to 34. Majority of them are, not all of them. And then trying to compel the others to travel at 30 is going to be difficult and challenging. That's all I'm saying.
Do we have any other questions or comments on the motion? All in favor?
Sorry, if you want, I can ask Bruce, if you want to table it, you can ask Bruce to take a look at the other single lane stuff, to see, what might be required for a systemic addressing of the issue, or sorry to interrupt the vote, but or you can just go proceed on this one. So I think there's a couple options.
Okay, so we amend this motion.
I would just suggest table. And council direct us to take a review of other single lane roads that we may have. That's what council wants. Because we do have a lot of lanes and stuff like that. But again, those are, I don't know that they were designed this way, but they are naturally roadways that encourage you to be slower and faster. So there's those two options. There's an option for council. I thought I'd try to come up with one.
Does anybody want to amend the motion to table?
No, you just say
We just table it?
you just say what you don't amend.
I'll motion to table it
Okay.
and have it come back to our next meeting, or is that too soon?
That'd be premature, because I think Bruce is on holidays, I'm going away. Bruce, what would be realistic?
We could probably have it, I'll say it first week. We might have the first meeting in September.
Yeah.
And then we'll review and figure some analysis of how to try and coordinate.
What are you guys getting? Good to possible, if they have any information, ask the RCMP if they have any, there's certain streets or certain areas in the town that they do have
Accidents or.
either accidents or if they get complaints, so because people would be calling them, so there might be other people in a similar situation that they hear about frequently. So the
River Valley dogs.
We're looking at all.
Yeah.
We got a recommendation. We have a sign on the cars on the park here, there's a 20 kilometer sign, a yellow one, put one down just for, I got this little caution sign, like 20 sign here, like they have on the turn, the double last time. On there on our street, maybe with the, for the way you turn, maybe deter people, that's all, this one, just deter people to speed, that's all.
We tabled it.
Okay, so do we need to make a motion to direct
It's just,
the
the
table?
council day tables to be brought back.
September 9th.
First meeting in September, and a review of single lane, roads and,
Speed limits.
speed limits.
Okay, speed limits.
Yeah, sorry.
That's
Searching for-
Okay. And so we,
And on the motion, your worship,
yes,
there is no further discussion after we've first and second.
first and second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you for the good discussion on that item, everybody. F, outdoors NB, building location. That the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize outdoors NB to lease a rental office on site at Brundage Point until next season. The motion? Thank you, Councillor Day. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Tuol. John, can you speak to the motion so that,
Yeah, so Jeremy currently has two buildings. There's the hut, which is a natural design. He built it high, And that's what's causing his transportation. I was surprised that it cost $800 to move in one way. He just lives down the road, basically. So he just has to keep it there, and he's mindful that sometimes the river may get that out. And he'll monitor it in the springtime and move it up Farmers Way if required. The seat can, which he painted tonight for the center today, is now painted, and that'll be removed from the site during the end of the season. So he's been good to work with. We had discussed it here. We don't have problems with him keeping it there. It's not, it doesn't stick out like other buildings.
Thank you, John. Do you have any questions on the motion? All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item G, organizational chart. That the council of the town of Bay-Westfield accept the organizational chart as presented. So motion. Thank you, Councillor McIntosh. I'll get this. Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Do we have a second? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. John, can you talk a little bit about the new org chart, please?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to streamline things. When I first arrived here, I had a market reporting sheet that this suggests. So it streamlines things, and that's about all I can say. And just for your information, I always have residents along council because that's who we'll report to. The CFO treasurer, Greg Millman's, will have the assistant treasurer and confidential secretary, that's Marcia, and they're reporting to for council's information. The PAC secretary is also the confidential secretary. That's been moved internally. I think that was done in the spring, if I'm not mistaken. And then the fire chief is also the deputy CAO. And council asked me one time about what happens if the fire chief is busy with his deputy CAO stuff, that the deputy chief on this org chart will take his place. And then the rec director, the other change here is the river center coordinator used to report directly to the CAO. She'll now report to the rec director. And then, of course, there's our works commissioner with his name.
Do we have any questions for John on the new org chart?
Just a comment, Your Worship. The organizational chart for the development officer looks rather lean compared to the other departments, considering that the development office is the responsible office for council, responsible for number one priority, council's new strategic plan. And I don't know if our development officer has ever been asked if he could use some other assistance. The reason I mentioned this, I attended my first PAC meeting last week, and there's a lot that our development officer has on his plate. And if we're going to be growing, we cannot have everything done for us by Division St. John. I think David will be a lot busier and may need some help. So I'm just planting to see. Maybe this could be changed at some time in the future with some discussion with Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. John, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I would agree with the council's assessment that the development office role is often in conflict with growth. It's not because he doesn't want to see growth, it's because quite often he's ensuring that development conforms or complies with different legislation, both provincially and locally. So sometimes that leads to the wrong flavor with people. Other municipalities for focus on growth will also have an economic development officer, communications person responsible for those types of things. So there's different ways of addressing that. I just want to say I think David is a very good development officer. He certainly knows his federal, which he's been reviewing today. I got a lengthy email on that, which I won't bore you with, provincial and also local issues. He's also our champion when it comes to environmental issues as well, and seeing the meet on that, plus our science. So.
Thank you, John. We have any other questions? Okay, on the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item H, RBCC, Memorandum of Understanding, Library with Wolos Skilkweg First Nations exhibit. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield authorize the CAO to work with the board of the RBCC and MLA Bill Oliver to study the feasibility and design of a library at the RBCC. We have a motion. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. We have a second. Thank you, Councillor Day. John, can you give some background on this item, please?
So I received this, it was forwarded from you, if I recall, right? Yeah, you forwarded this to me, I think that was Wednesday, I'm not sure if the date's right now. And in which the representative of the RBCC has asked for the town to enter into an MOU by August 15th on the development of a library. There's a lot of work that goes into setting up, planning a library, not which is, when people talk about a library, what do they mean? One generation will think it's a bunch of books. However, contemporary libraries serve more as knowledge exchanges or information centers. Game rooms, meeting rooms. There will, of course, be books, but there's also going to be a lot of audio and visual material as well. And, of course, access to the internet. So there's a lot of questions here, not least of which is that space adequate or something like that. Especially if you don't want to have an exhibit in there. That moves a lot of space from it. I entirely agree with the sentiment, Your Worship, that something like that is needed. However, I think that we should be intentional on what we're going to support before we just answer outright an email saying, yeah, we'll sign on to it. Or just saying we should do it.
Because we do have a book club going, and with us going green, I'm hopeful that maybe in the fall we can start meeting as a group. And if we were going to have a library, it might be nice to have the book club meeting at the library.
Space.
Yeah.
So quite often libraries are more like community centers.
Mhm.
You know, they're the traditional thing where you have rows and rows of books is really passe.
We have any other questions or comments on the motion? Yes,
Just a comment, Your Worship. I would suggest to our CAO that in his discussions with the other two partners, consideration be made for a pilot project with a fixed sunset, 2-3 years. Very difficult to assess the efficacy of something over a 1-year period. 3 years would be probably about the maximum, and have some agreed upon metrics such that everybody can determine at the very end if it met their expectations.
Thank you, Councillor Bowden.
And I'd also suggest connecting with the St. John Library system, as well as Chris Francis has a library. And you might be able to get some information from them, what's working and what isn't.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Do we have any other questions or comments on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, item I, Dillon Consulting, progress claim number 1, Centrum Generator. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield authorize the payment of $22,997.65 to ProStar Electrical Services, Inc. to cover work completed on project number 20-3973. You have a motion? Oh, Councillor Bellman, thank you. You have a second? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. And could I have, is it Troy? Can you speak on this item? Did I catch you?
Oh, yes.
The Centrum, the building generator,
Yeah, this was just the electrical work that was done, the completion of the concrete pad, and the crawler, something from random neighborhood accidentally. That has all been completed, so this is just.
That's great. Thank you.
So are we close to having the generator if we're in an emergency situation?
We are done everything that we can possibly do.
Right?
Right now, it's all hands of the manufacturer to actually finish building the generator and ship it, which is going to be delayed 3 times.
Okay.
Yes.
We have any additional questions for Troy?
Just one, Your Worship.
Yes, thank you.
I'm not a technical person, Troy. I want to ask if we had an emergency that required a generator right now, and one could be found of the suitable capacity or wattage or kilowattage, is it possible that one could be rented or borrowed and hooked up to the current wiring that's there, or is the wiring not finished yet?
No, I think all the wiring is done. So we're going to bring the contractor in
Yes.
to make the connection. So yes, if we knew it was going to be like a multi-day event,
Yes.
we could probably.
And we could secure one. Thank you.
Hurricane
Thank you.
season is coming.
Okay, do we have any other comments or questions on the item? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Item is J, 2022 capital engineering. Yes, thank you, Councilor Bellman.
Okay.
The motion is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield authorize Dillon Consulting to perform design work on the 8 tentative capital projects with revised cost estimate to be available for capital budget selection process in the fall of 2021. We have a motion. Thank you, Councilor Day. We have a second. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you. Okay. So if we could have John or Bruce want to speak on this item?
I'll just start off first, Councilor. We should just discuss the 19 breaking point issue.
Okay. And then we can bring it back.
And then bring it back for the rest, if Council's good with that. So I'll lead Council into it, and Bruce will do the deep dive, if that's all right. 10 years ago, maybe more, there's a culprit across the driveway there, 19 breaking point. That's before the house was put in place. It collapsed, so the town has to replace it, and replace it with a concrete culvert for a variety of reasons, one of which was the increased volume of water. However, in its place, they went beyond the roadway right away. So it actually falls about 1.5 meters, I believe it is. 1.5 meters. Yeah, it falls onto the property of the property owners. And so they requested, going back a few years, I understand, to have that corrected. They do not want an easement. They don't want to grant an easement. They want this fixed. And the fix is we'll cut off about 1.5 meters of concrete pipe, but they've also indicated they would like a different fix to make it better. So a couple of points here for council. One is this is an error made by the contractor to the town. Whether or not we can ask them to actually force it or compel them to do it, because it's been 10 years or more, I don't know. The second one is, to what standard or level are we going to do the repair? And complicating that fact is the fact that it's a cast record. I'll ask Bruce to correct anything that I've said in error, and he'll definitely correct the omissions.
Well, it wasn't I'm really don't need to correct anything. You had said everything. I guess I just wanted to make a little extra detail that the collar was done in 2007. So it was 14 years. Yeah, it was 14 years old, not recent by any stretch. And again, what happened, there was a galvanized pipe on it there, it road collapsed. They put a new pipe in. And again, we had upside of the pipe that was there, and 2 concrete pipes across the road. And but they ended up getting concrete pipes from lengths, whatever. So again, how it ended up is 1.5 meters on the council building's property. All in the brook. But the brook's there, there's work on one side, work on the other side. But the actual pipe, the physical pipe, is 1.5 on his property. So we at the time, that came to light and began an easement. But no, again, the hallmark has been, on which grant solution would like to fix. From our side, if we can't work on or have easement on private property, our option is to take the pipe off of private property to remove the traffic. Which is what the option is from there. And again, it sounds easy to cut off the pipe, but with the water course, the broken, and all the Department of Fisheries, and air conditioning, I mean, the work within the pipe, it's not an easy fix. But that's kind of where we're at. And again, it's good to get the item on there as to how we push that handle forward, whether it's a priority for this year.
Your worship, I would suggest that we should look after the state keeping our trespass.
We have any questions for Bruce or John on this item?
Just one question, Your Worship. For the fix being a cut pipe, would there be a requirement to apply to the Department of Environment for a water health fluoridation certificate?
Yes, this is what I meant when I said it's
And it could be that they may not grant that follow-up. Is that a possibility?
I'm not sure on the legal side if they could grant a continuation of the trespass. Sure, where their powers, not necessarily environment, that's more of a fishway, so it would be fisheries notions that we looking after that as well.
I guess I'm just wondering, Your Worship, if cutting the excess pipe were to significantly, on a large water flow, move the water to a different direction, that could be a reason for non-issuance of the permit. Then we'd have to look at the fixes.
there is no fix, so I think, both the property owner and the town are going to have to sell the contract for it. So sort of compelled understanding that we can't do anything about it. So status quo.
And just to elaborate on that, this is, I guess, is our initial list. So what would be happening again with our capital that we had is the new procedure that we do now. We budgeted money this year to look at projects next year so we can get some detail, get some cost estimates, more defined, and get that, which is the purpose of it. Let's pick these streets. We don't know what we're doing, but we want to find some more detail, get the estimates, and have some dollar figures before the budget season. So at this point in time, it's let's investigate further, see which is what. This is not the list. This is not the list of streets to do next year. This is a preliminary list of streets that we're going to look at, get the refined prices.
Right.
So we can the budget season.
Right.
So which is estimates, the prices. We're looking at getting more
detail, yeah.
So what happens, or what has happened in the past, is we didn't get the design work, get the tenders out as fast as we'd like to. And then what happens if you don't get your tenders out as fast as you'd like to get them is the pricing. If some of the companies already have huge contracts, then they will put, and I've seen this over the years, bids in to see how much you want to get the work done. And they will bid way over the engineer's cost estimates. So over the years, we've been trying very hard, and I would like to thank you. It's the first time I've seen it at this time of year. And so that when we do budget, then our professional engineering company that we deal with can get the tenders out that much faster.
Thank you for that explanation, Councillor Day.
No problem.
Do we have any more questions on number 8, 19 Brandon Club Road? No? It's okay if we bring Councillor Bellens back in to go through the rest. Oh, on that one item?
Yeah.
Okay, because the motion is for 7 projects.
Sorry.
So the motion reads 7 projects, but that's the 8.
I think that,
mine
was added late, so that was amended, that wasn't caught.
Yeah, the one I read says, yeah. So,
We need a vote from council's to proceed with design work on this. Okay.
so on item number 8, 19 Brandy Point Road, if there's no further discussion, all in favor of proceeding with the work?
Yeah.
All in favor? Contrary-minded? Okay, then, item 8 is passed.
Just a clarification, that was design work.
Design work, yes, yes, thank you, Bruce.
Bruce, I thought it was Christmas time. When I saw that report in there, I thought, gee, we'll never get it this early.
Okay, so thank you for rejoining us, Councillor Bellmans. If you could have some more background on the rest of the projects and maybe a little bit about the street condition report, that would be great.
First of all, I'll turn that over to Bruce to go through the process that he and Bill go through to determine the priority of projects.
Thank you.
Yes, and this is, and thank you for that. At the end, I've been here so long, doing this so long, I thought I did everything. But again, the street condition report we're starting on, that started in 2002. So this has been an ongoing record for a long time, since 17 years. So if you back and look at the street condition report, a lot of the ones at the bottom they've been done years ago and they're changed. When we originally started, they weren't. So with that, so we do have the street condition report. It's documents that we started back in 2002 and been ongoing. What happened or what hasn't happened is Dillon Consulting every year was done and actually driving all the streets as well and provide a ranking number as to the condition of the street. And that is put into the spreadsheet. There's two tables, one where it's by alphabetical name, and then the other one is by ranking. So the worst streets are at the top, and that's where staff goes when we have our actual budget, 500,000, whatever the dollar is, and we go down through and we start knocking off the worst street, wherever we have. Now, it starts as a guide as where we're going, but we may have two streets that are 300,000, but we only have 100,000 left. So we have to pick something maybe down underneath that will fit our actual budget, and that will come again next year. So it's our guide as to where the rankings are, and then we try to marry that with how much fund we get. And that's how it sort of works through that. And then the other aspect that comes through that is the street condition report is just for the streets, but we also know that there's problems that come around with conditions that we looked at, and maybe that if we're doing that street this year, this is the year to do the storm sewer over that to fix that problem. So then that also gets added into the list to determine the funding, which may take the money still get the next one down low because we're trying to fix. So it's all married together, but it originally starts with the highest ranking street, where we go. And back in 2002, when that was before council, is council before that always they ran into, or they had actually but people would always call, do my street. Recently, we opened council didn't care of them. So they wanted to have the streets ranked and do the worst first. Wherever you're at, not how many people are on there, but if your street is in the worst condition, you should be first. And not because there's 5 people here or 200. So that's kind of where, that's how the original came.
Thank you, John.
So I just want to build on what was just said. Assets are really not political decisions. I think they when you talk about roads, sewers, water, it's safety, it's public interest. It should be based on objective assessments. So applaud the council's decision today.
Yes, yeah, I agree. It should be completely objective and evidence-based.
And that's how we got to this, and with the report, that's how we got to the list of the items that are recommended for further investigation and budget design to have that available for the budget season when we hire funding.
Do we have any questions for John or Bruce on the item?
I guess you sort of answered my question. I asked how you choose. I thought it was from the top down. So I'm assuming PANDNAC, it's rated a 4.8, but it's 160,000, so I'm assuming that's why.
It's not on the list.
The other thing that's needed for us to do work is that the town owns the road, or that the town has
Doesn't say
space to do the necessary work. So if we do not have a right of way for the roadway, then the work is not done until we have that paperwork. So it could be an easement or right of way. Hampton Act was the bane of the previous council's existence. I think that's a fair comment. And we still cannot get an easement or right of way on that, so the work is not being done. So if you see a road that's in poor condition and it's been like that for years, that's usually because we're not able to do the type of work that's necessary because someone owns a small sliver of land or a little bit larger sliver.
If you go up Thompson Road, we worked with the residents on Thompson Road, and there were some homes that had we taken the complete right away, we would have been at their doorstep. And so we worked with the residents and they gave us the easements. And we were able to do that work on Thompson, did we not?
Eventually, yes, you're right.
Yes, but it took a long time to get there. And it took a lot of pressures of neighbors on neighbors. And usually what you find is that there's one person, for whatever reason, doesn't want to join the rest. And what we have learned from doing Thompson is that if we don't have full commitment, we're not doing it. Because then it becomes a piecemeal, and then it's trying to get, oh, how much, you spent a ton of time trying to get people talked into helping us and doing Thompson Road. And that was one of the big lessons we learned doing that. So that's why Bruce is holding out, and we will hold out until everybody signs on.
Thank you for that explanation.
No problem.
We could just add to what the councillor said. If we look at a strategic plan, talking about infrastructure sustainability, we're going to affect that sort of right now. One of the items on the work plan will that the town owns all the road. And so that'll be an ongoing process to have people sign off on the right of ways or the easements. And then that'll make this type of asset management significantly easier, especially with the road like that. So, and again, I just sort of reminder to council, there are things that we do that are beyond our control, such as Thompson, where not everybody necessarily wants to sign on, or candidate, where there's still a resident who doesn't support the work that's being done.
Thank you, John. Do we have any other? Oh,
Is
Councilor
the
Bell?
affirmative issue is the widening of the road, or just if you don't own the road? Is it the widening of the road? Okay.
So the issue is that the road needs to be widened, and we.
Yeah, I think Bruce Bob correct me, but I think part of the issue is overland drainage there, and then space for people to move. Is that? I don't know the specifics.
Well, with that, there was a Pamela Road, if you go down, it's narrow, hard to get to there at that. But the Pamela Road is also a major collector of a lot of homes up there to use that. And we want to upgrade the road to make it safer for the motorists and for the pedestrians, but we need to make it wide. So that's why we're going to get a little more outside, so we get room for two cars pass, room for both tractors and walkers. Right now, there isn't. But if you want to upgrade the road and you want to build it right, we need to get it wider, safer for everybody.
Yes, John.
We're talking about pandemic. We received correspondence in February from NB Southern. We know that the crossing is not in very good condition, just has the temporary timbers in there. They did indicate in February that they thought they'd be upgrading it to permanent fix this year. It's now the middle of August, close enough. We're losing a little bit of hope that that will be done this year. Just a quick update for council. See how they're talking about that.
Thank you, John. Do you have any additional questions?
This is so extremely helpful, I can speak for me, I'm sure the new people as well, for understanding of the history of council making, help us with budgeting and the rationale behind it. This is great, appreciate it. This is the type of stuff that's so helpful, a snapshot and
Right.
really helpful to see.
and it's good to let everyone know that they're, it's not subjective. None of this is subjective. It's all based on, evidence.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item 12, bills for payment. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize the bills for payment as presented in the amount for $79,167.07. Thank you, Councillor Day. Second. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. We have questions on the bills for payment?
Yes, I'd like to thank Marcia, I would assume, and Heather for the monthlies and yearlies and the annuals.
Yes.
It was very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a great, I think that was your suggestion last time.
But I heard it from others.
From others, yeah.
It was, and that, because of that, it's just. So that was really good.
No, I have nothing this week. I have nothing this week. That was my comment.
I'd just like to bring the council's attention, I think it's number 20, maybe Gary to speak to it more. That's the last payment for the Greater St. John Field Bus project.
Yes.
It's my understanding that there aren't any discussions that have more money provided for that. So.
I think we provided 10,000, or is it, Gary, how much did we do overall?
5 years at 2,000, so 10,000.
Yeah, 10,000, yeah. Boy, that went by fast. Oh, too quick.
So no questions on bills for payment this month? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item 13, consent agenda. Item 13A is recreation report, June 2021. B is planning report. C is capital project status report, August 2021. D is Portage Atlantic. E, Strawberry Non-Social Fundraiser. F, Nature Trust. And G, Donna Taylor, and B, Southern Railway Train Whistle. Do I have a motion? Oh, I should read the motion. How about that? That the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the consent agenda reports for July 2021. Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Thank you, Councillor Day. Does anybody have any questions on any of the reports in the consent agenda?
I just have a question, Your Worship. First of all, number B, planning report. And when you look at this thing, decided to act up a minute ago. Oh, value of new housing starts. Oh, I know you're there. I don't remember ever seeing 6 million on one of these reports.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 of them.
It's 2 buildings.
2, oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, 24. I have never seen in 20 years us having the value of new housing starts at $6,602,162. That is an incredible good news story, because when you look at for 2020, the total, ignore the year to date, the total for the year was only $2,063,476. So that is huge for our community, and I'm hearing a lot of positives. I don't know about anybody else about the apartment buildings. I've had some people say, do you know what they're going to charge for rent? And I'm thinking, well,
Yes.
yeah, you're in a new building with new appliances, new everything.
The view.
Oh, yes, and the view. And the other thing I love about them is the fact that they're on bus routes, they're close to Foodland, they're close to the Guardian, Pizza Delight, Box Taste, Tim Hortons, and then the best thing, if they need a bottle of fire water, they can walk down to Schultz and walk back. And they've got all the exercise equipment on Colonel Mace. So I think it's excellent. It's the best thing that has happened to us for a long time. So congratulations and thank you, David, because I know you had to do a lot of work to get there.
Yes, thank you, David. I know you had to do a lot to bring that over the finish line. So thank you. It's a really good news story.
Now, my other question, Your Worship, is on the train whistle. I know that you will be looking at the federal government Department of Transportation's mandate and whatnot. So will this come back to us as a report, or will this just automatically happen that the train whistle stops?
Yes and no. We'll be coming back to council. We're going to follow the process outlined on the link that I provided. And I believe, the somebody's brought it forward. The mayor and I are collecting the number of items I would like to talk about these other, not an adversarial role, but as partnerships. And so we'd like to proceed, I provide speak worship on a friendly footing with them, that we are partners for their growth and for our growth. And in order to have sustainable growth, which includes safety, we need to work together on this.
Okay.
So that's the approach we're going to be following, and we will, of course, be bringing stuff back to council because council resolution.
Because risk management just set off all kinds of bells and whistles, and I'm very concerned, and I have lost members on the crossings. So safety is paramount. And I guess at my age, trains were part of life much more than what they are today. And I know that we've had issues over the years on council with children playing on the tracks. So this may be in the middle of the night where you wouldn't expect the children to be on the tracks, but life surprises us. So safety is my issue.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Do you have any other questions or comments on anything in the consent agenda?
One comment, Your Worship. Item 13F, the letter that council received, and I believe many other councils in the province received from the Nature Trust. I have a lot of time for the Nature Trust and would love to work with them more. Looking at this terrible situation that happened in the Fredericton area where wetland was mistakenly drained. The root cause of that drainage and situation that caused that to occur, I do not believe rested with the city of Fredericton or the municipality. Municipalities do not have the resources of biologists. The Department of Environment, local government do, and that they're the ones who should be looking at the situation and with their biologists and determining whether a Wawa certificate should even be issued. So municipalities can certainly work and be cognizant of this, but I don't think this was a municipal issue.
Thank you, Councillor Belkin.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments on the consent agenda?
I have a question, but I just have a comment. I know I've seen some comments, probably not doable right now, but I would love to see giant calendar when you first open the town webpage and with everything listed that's going on in the town each day. Because I just see there's RV Lions bingo on Thursday nights, and I had no idea that was happening.
Yes, John?
That's my question. I share your desire. I really do. I don't know how to implement that. It's not a question of technology. We can have a calendar up there that people self-populate, but at the end of the day, not all volunteers want to spend time populating. And then the question is it accurate? That's been tried by a lot of municipalities to get some groups that participate, others that don't. Some that will be good for a season, but we have someone in a position who don't have someone in a position who doesn't think it's as important. And it's like herding cats. I'm not trying to say that we can't do it. We could put, the council wants, we get a budget item, create a self-populating calendar, be happy to do it, and to encourage groups to fill it out. But at the end of the day, that's not something that we can compel on and that we can regulate.
Many years ago, I'm going to get to be the old lady on council. Diane McGowan was a councillor at the time. She and I worked at trying to get a paper calendar and getting groups to tell us what was happening in the community. And we sent out a lot of communications to groups with a little form, and all it had was the day and time, whatever, of their meeting, so that we could post the calendar monthly at places like The Guardian. And then if you wanted to send somebody to Girl Guides or somebody to Scouts and you're new in the community, you could see what was happening. When was public skates at the community center? We gave up because after 2 years of banging our heads on the wall and nobody was giving us any information, very little, we gave up because it was so frustrating. And that's really hard because, I mean, how am I put it? I know that people like to get new membership signing up for Scouts or new ones for Girl Guides. But if you don't know what's happening out there and you're new to the community, and I've noticed some new things coming up on Facebook from people who are new saying, what happens? What goes on in this town? And we don't do welcome wagon anymore. That really dates me. But that is really, really hard.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Day. Councillor McIntosh Lawrence, maybe that's something we can look at when we're working more on pillar of community vitality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's some definite challenges to it. I think it's a great initiative, I really do. There's just lots of challenges. Give an example, Parks and Rec Master Plan. Stakeholder groups had an opportunity to have a real impact on the discussion on budget items, because it's all going to come back to council for budget. 18 out of 43 can respond for budget items, let alone sharing your opportunities with other people advertising. So that's definitely that we're going to have to crack.
Thank you, John. Do we have any other comments?
One quick one, just to point out that one of the letters on here, if residents have issues or have questions to council, just let you know that they will be looked at. So you can send a letter to individual councilors. You can contact us. If it's something that is to go before council, I'm using the railroad as an example, to be brought before council. If it's something that we can direct you to, that the city's the town staff can easily answer, we can direct you there. But just to let residents know that you are heard, like, please reach out to us, please reach out to the town. We're trying to get more about, I guess,
two-way street communication.
Yeah, we're working on that. Just to let people know, some things aren't perfect. Just call the town up, they'll know right offhand. They're easy to answer. Other things might be better to bring to the councilors. We need to bring it to council's attention. So, but just reach out, because a lot of us will. If we don't have the answers to town, we'll have answers to put you right.
Thank you, Aaron. That's a good point. And just one last thing, I just want to point out that there is a lovely thank you letter here to Bruce Galt for all the help that you gave the Westfield United Church for their Strawberry Non-Social Day. It's a glowing thank you. So thank you, Bruce, for being such a supporter of the people in the community. So if there are no other comments, all in favor? Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Item 14, this is a new item on our agenda. It's kind of exciting. It's council reports, and what that is, it's an opportunity for each councillor to talk about what they've been doing in and for the community in between our council meetings. So I will start off with Deputy Mayor Toole.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have too much I want to focus on, but I do want to bring up a lot of the stuff we did early on, I guess. Mostly the month of June was as a group. So we all participated as a group in strategic planning and orientation. We worked quite well together, which was fantastic. So that was kind of the main bit of work. But on an individual side, the things I want to highlight is at a meeting, I believe it was the end of June, we were all appointed on different committees and different groups that we were to work with. And one of the ones that I was on was the Regional Facilities Commission. And I did participate in the orientation of that commission last week. And I've been able to review their documents and their budgets. Just to let everyone know, that is the commission that looks at allocating each municipality in our region contributes to different regional facilities, the aquatic center, training convention center, things like that. So there's budgets that need to be approved by each municipality. We all need to approve our contribution. So that is my role, to go there to make sure that Bay-Westfield's voice is heard and we have a say in the budget. So that's what I was working on. And it's dear to my heart because I was a representative from Grand Bay for the aquatic center for years, which is one of the regional facilities. So that's, I think, a really important role, and I'm quite pleased to be a part of it. And I also want to use this opportunity as a plug, just to let you know that since I was on the aquatic center board, and I know others around here have been on different boards, that if you are interested, if there are residents who are interested, I know council is going to be looking at, the town's going to be looking at putting out a call to people who want to volunteer. But if you do want to volunteer, if you have an interest, please let us know, because we will put you on a chart. It's a great way to get to know kind of what goes on, where the decisions are made. So that's the main thing that's been going on. On another side, there's one minor thing I'll mention. Another committee that I've been tasked with is the organizational capacity, which doesn't sound too great, but it's important. It encompasses kind of how we work and how we're working well. So what I've been doing on my own is to try to get my head around all the numerous bylaws that are going on. Some are new, some are old, most are old. But just to go through and see what we're working on. So that's going to be built up to make sure that we are improving our processes, and little steps we take make a big difference, like the monthly, annual, those notations on our financial sheets. It's saving us time and money. So that is kind of what I have known.
Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor. That was he's been busy. Thank you. Okay, so Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
So I guess the big thing I was put on the community vitality group, and so part of that is Parks and Recreation. So the steering committee for Parks and Recreation recently met with the consulting firm RC Strategies that sent out the survey, the Parks and Rec survey. So we recently met with them and got the results, which were quite interesting, and they'll be made public soon. So that's a big part of my role, is the Parks and Rec Master Plan. Also, I am, as part of Community Vitality, I'm working with a local RCMP member and to offer a bike rodeo again for school-age kids, middle school kids. That will hopefully be first or second weekend in September. Another thing I think we're all doing this, we're all registered for the Indigenous Canada course, and that just helps us to familiarize and educate ourselves with Indigenous history. So I think that will be very beneficial to all of us. As well, I think myself and everyone have been attending Unity Park, Summer Stage events, the Friday night music, the Canada Day events, New Brunswick Day events. So I think we're all out there meeting people, and we just want our residents involved, and like Aaron said, reach out to any of us at any time, email, Facebook, anything.
Thank you, Stephanie. Councillor Day.
Well, I've been probably one of the quieter ones of the new council, not by choice, but because of situation. But I did have an interesting dialogue with residents at the campground in St. Andrews last Friday night. And it was a very interesting comment from residents in our community who wanted to know why we hired a CFO. And he had numerous questions, a 75-year-old man that's sprier than me these days. And I was able to tell him why we were doing some of the changes, and he had met our CAO and he was very impressed with them. he said he came from Saskatchewan. And I went, yeah, he did. So he was very pleased with the comments and why we were doing things. And he liked the thing about I'm co-chair with, I think, you on the operational. And when I talked about processes and whether we contract out or whether we bring it back in-house and all the costs, he's one of our contract outs. And he understood. He said it makes a lot of sense what you guys are doing. He was really impressed about the strategic plan. And he was even more impressed that we're on YouTube. So now he's going to be watching. And I know Friday night when he comes down, if he's got a question, he'll be right over. So, but I'd like to thank all of you for all the things you've been doing, the summer stage and New Brunswick Day and everything. It's great to be out there with the citizens. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Councillor Bailman.
I don't have a lot to say, but I'm just, around the community, I talk to everybody, and informed what's going on in the community. It's nice thing that they're here and talk to everybody, because everybody knows you can't go anywhere. I mean, he's pulling you over talking or something, or pulling your driveway, so I'm just informing the people if we're going ahead and we're planning to build, and crack it out. Take with us. That's all it is.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Balcom.
Thank you, Your Worship. Two of the committees that I've been assigned to. The first one attended my first meeting last week, and it was a training session. I'm council's representative now on the Planning Advisory Committee called PAC. That's not Pac-Man, I've learned. And I must admit, and I should say, I attended also with the public at large, its new representative, Kelly Thompson, as well. We attended, and we had a very informative, almost 2-hour session led by Mr. David Taylor and also by the chair, and very informative. We learned a lot. I'm actually glad for the first meeting that it was only the two of us who were there, because we got to ask a lot of questions, and it was great. Looking forward to the actual meetings. The second committee that I'm involved with is Population Growth and Economic Development Committee. That's going to be a very busy committee. Definitely cannot do it alone. Councillor Bailman sits on the committee with me, and because our Chief Administrative Officer is the representative for the town on Vision St. John, we have to ensure that the town's strategic plan is in very much parallel with Envision St. John's strategic plan, and both of those have almost been finalized. Once they're all finalized, we will be rolling up our sleeves and presenting some interim concepts to council, and look forward to presenting those.
Thank you, Councillor Balcom. I just want to recognize all the members of council for the committee work that they have been doing and will continue to do, as well as the community outreach that I'm seeing here. It's really important to spread the message of the work that we're doing here, and also bring back what people are saying and needing and wanting and feeling. So thank you very much for all the work you're doing on our behalf. So thank you very much. So on to item 15, which is business arising from committee of the whole. Yes.
I don't believe they did.
Okay then. Right. Well, I can do that. I just thought this was the time for the rest of council. I talk all the time, but if you want to know what I've done, that's okay. So I've been busy. In the last few weeks, I've spent a lot of time relationship building with our regional partners, both regional mayors and regional provincial representatives, as well as our MP. Because in order for us to succeed and move forward, we have to make sure that we have really excellent working relationships with all of those parties. It's going to be a partnership moving forward. So spend a lot of time and effort moving that forward. I spent a lot of time with John working on things like the UMNB resolutions, and that's important because we we want to have a voice at the table when it comes to what the association advocates at a provincial level. So that was some of the things, some of what I spent my time doing. I joined Councillor McIntosh Lawrence as part of the steering committee for the Parks and Rec Master Plan, and we had that update meeting this past week where it was an update on what they heard, as well as an opportunity to do some visioning for the future for the final master plan. And that was really pretty exciting. I'm really looking forward to seeing the final plan and moving forward with that as part of our community vitality pillar of a strategic plan. And speaking of the strategic plan, I did some media with that this week, which media is always in terms exciting and a little bit terrifying, but you do it anyway. And we got a really great article on the Telegraph Journal talking about about the pillars, where we're going, our vision statement, our mission statement, and how that aligns with where we want the town to go in the future. So that's just a little bit of what I did this week, and it's busy, but I'm never bored, and I'm completely fascinated, and I'm learning a lot. So I always thank the residents for allowing me to be in this position and doing what I'm so passionate about doing. But I'd like to move on to items.
She does a really, really good Facebook listing of what she did for the previous week. So if you're bored and you want to read what the mayor did, check it out.
Okay, item 15, business arising from committee of the whole. There being none, I think we get to move on to item 16, which is adjournment. And the motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adjourn the meeting at 9:10 p.m.
Seconded.
Okay, so we have Deputy Mayor Toole is first and Councillor Day is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Majority minded? All right, the motion is carried. Thank you, everybody. It was a great meeting. Thank you to staff for being here and supporting us with all the questions that we asked. We appreciate it.